played over 50 games for the Matildas, including a World Cup and the Tokyo Olympics, played in at least half a dozen countries professionally, and has won the Golden Boot Award in the A-League. Today, I'm joined by superstar striker Emily Gielnik. Emily, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thanks. And just first, speaking of being a striker, I know at Brisbane in your early days you were kind of like recognised as a super sub for your ability to like come off the bench and just score some late goals.
Yeah.
Then I saw a video of you on YouTube talking about the Tillies before the World Cup, where you were talking about like the importance of the game changes off the bench. Is that a role that you really like enjoyed getting to do at like times in your career?
Yes, so that's actually quite a difficult role, if I'm honest, especially for players who are trying to make the Matildas or even just trying to be a part of A-League. So being on the bench is a very, very tough thing as a player, especially as a striker, because you want to be starting, you want more opportunity to score goals. But to be honest, that was actually a major part of my career and a turning point. And not only did it work out well for me in the A-League, back in the day as the super sub, you can call it, and I had very minimal time, but for some reason, every time I came on the pitch, I would score. But it became my role as a national team player. However, I was quite successful as a super sub, even in the national team, so that actually got me some national team starts. So I was a starting 11 here, there, and everywhere. But I think the biggest thing I can say is, as a game changer, as soon as you can accept your role and you don't see yourself as a substitute, you don't see yourself as second best. Once I got that in my head, is like, no, this is my role. I'm going to come on and give the team something that they're lacking, and I can come on and change the game. And most of the times I would come on, draw the game, or come on and win the game. So there's something special about being a sub if you can really accept that challenge and accept that role.
Okay, I mean, that's a really great thing for, I guess, like maybe kids to know as well, that you don't need to be like a starting star to really like help your team.
That's right. I will also say this is an important thing that not too many people know about me. But when I first dreamt of, playing in the A-Leagues, I for the first 2 years, and now he's my current coach, Jeff Hopkins. But I always talk about this to young kids that, really want to be starting games and feel a little bit left out. When I first got my contract, I actually sat in the grandstand almost the entire season. So I missed out on selection.
Oh, wow.
Pretty much that whole entire season. Second season, I was a substitute and I felt really frustrated. I thought I deserved more. And then third or fourth season, when I started really getting game time, scoring goals. And what it made me realise is I had to really fight for respect and fight for those opportunities. And I think some kids these days, as soon as you get your contract, you think you have the right to play, you deserve to play, you want to play, and that's great. But you also have to accept there's a ladder to climb, and sometimes being challenged is the best thing that can happen to you. And when I look back at that now, I think if I didn't have those adversities when I was younger, I wouldn't be the player I am today, definitely.
Well, that's great that you've been able to like accept that and I guess use that to your advantage.
Definitely, yeah.
I just kind of want to like go back to when like you're young now, kind of start at the beginning. I know that you grew up in Brisbane. You started off playing basketball as well, and I think even rugby as well.
Rugby league with the boys.
Any other sports that you did?
I mean, I played everything I could possibly play. Touch footy, swimming. I did the cross country. Like I was that all round sports person. I couldn't get enough of sport. I lived and breathed sport. I was always getting first in every single what's it called when you're a school kid when you go to the sport, the athletics carnival, and the age champion.
Oh, okay.
Age champion.
Wow.
Yeah, so it means like when you get the most points or you win most of the events. That was pretty much me every year. So I was I wouldn't say gifted, I was a very hungry competitor. I always wanted to win. Destined to play sport no matter what it was.
And like you said, you played rugby with all the boys. Like, what was that like?
That was cool, to be honest. Once I actually made it through to a higher level of rugby with the boys, I was petrified because there were these big guys. But no, it taught me to be tough. I have a younger brother, so we would always, ruffle in the backyard. But there's something about competing against boys, and I always say this to younger girls. Train and play with the boys as long as you can. Even though women's football is getting more and more competitive, from a young age, I played and trained with boys until I was 14, until I wasn't allowed to anymore. It made me tough, it made me resilient, and it made me fight for every inch of the ball. So that was a really important lesson throughout my career.
Okay, that's great, because I'm never like sure, because some athletes say that they really enjoy it and then others say that they've been forced to like switch sports. But I
think it's a sink or swim moment. You pretty quickly, if you can survive with the boys, you can dominate being with the girls. It's pretty evident that if you throw yourself in the deep end really, really quickly, and the boys will challenge you. They won't take it easy on you, but I love that. There's something fun about beating a guy. And outrunning them, out-muscling them, scoring on them. So that really drove me to be successful. I wasn't taking no for an answer. I hated losing, so I trained with them for as long as I could.
Then who were your, like, I guess, like, sporting inspirations and idols back then? Were they, like, male rugby players, or were they, like, other ones that you looked up to?
To be honest, I actually grew up admiring Cristiano Ronaldo. Messi came later to date, but no one from a rugby or a basketball background. But yeah, Cristiano was I loved his skills, and I think I loved his skills because I didn't grow up with any skills. When I was younger, I started quite late. I didn't start playing soccer until I was 12.
Yeah, wow.
So I had people's dads coaching me. I didn't really know how to do a step over, anything fancy, but I could score a lot of goals. So I never really built. I never really got taught to be a technical player, yet I like to tell that to people because I still got to where I am, not being an absolute technician like Mary Fowler, for instance, who's just flawless on the ball. I didn't grow up with that coaching, with that level of skill, but I still made it.
But you never really had, like, many females, I guess, that you could look up to, like...
No, not really. I think the only one I can really think of was Abby Wambach. I saw a little bit of myself in her. I thought she was a goal machine. She was a big, tall, strong player. She always pulled up big for America. I think that was kind of my only player that I was like, damn, she is just a solid machine, really good. And respect for Carly Lloyd as well, because I feel like I've got a little bit of a screw different and she has a total different mindset, and she's just another level. And a lot of people don't agree with it, but look what she's done in her career, and that's because she has this mindset like no one else.
Yeah, well, that's pretty amazing that you had, I guess, both
Yeah.
to look up to. But we didn't really kind of, like, I guess, exactly talk about this before, even though you spoke about taking up football, but I think you got injured and then you took up football.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what was it about football in particular that made you want to take it up?
That made me want to...
Like, take it up? But...
Yeah. I don't know. There's just something about competition, and I still got that in rugby and basketball, but for some reason football was like the driving force for me. I loved running around. I loved scoring. I loved getting in behind. There was so many skill levels to football, and there was so many opportunity to get better and better, and I loved that. And obviously I think I chose that sport because I loved how I could compete with boys at a young age, so I knew there was something in there for me. Did I ever think I would be a Matilda when I was that young? No. Didn't even think I would make the A-League, and then all those things just fell into place. I had a dream to get a Brisbane Roar contract, then I had a dream to be young Matilda. That happened. Scored a hat-trick on my debut, and then I had a dream to be a Matilda, and 52 caps later, here I am.
Yeah, you spoke about playing at Brisbane. I think Ray Dower was one of your first coaches at Brisbane, who's the current junior Matildas coach. I've met her a few times. I've had good chats with her. She's awesome. Like, what kind of impact has she had on your football career when you were younger?
think if I talk about Ray, there's a lot of things that coaches possess. Sometimes it's coaching knowledge, maturity, how they handle players. What Ray gave me is belief, and that's really difficult. I think a lot of people, just from an outside perspective, just assume every coach believes in every single player, and that's not the case. A lot of times you have to believe in yourself. But Ray gave me the confidence in myself to know that I was a great footballer and that I could go somewhere. She really made me believe that. So she was a massive part, especially in those early years. She instilled huge belief into me, and, would just give me these little pep talks before the game. Every time I would miss out on something big, she would always reach out to me. So, she has been a mentor, in a way, and she's always had my back, and she's always believed in me right from the very start, back at Redlands United.
Do you still chat to her, like, now?
Every now and then, yeah, she'll reach out. We'll message, and, we'll go back and forth. She's always called me Little M. I was a big weapon for her up front, but she's definitely part of the reason where I am today, because, she gave me a reason to believe in myself, and made me believe that I could make it all the way to the top.
Okay, that's really cool. And I do just want to go back to the Matildas now. I think I read, and you also said before, that you kind of first saw the Matildas when you were my age, which is 14. And it was at Coffs Harbour, and, like, straight away you knew you wanted to be Matilda after not knowing about them really before that. Like, they didn't really have, I guess, the celebrity status that they have now, like how everyone, like, fangirls over them. Like, what made you want to go, I want to play for them, that's what I want to be?
Oh, to be honest, it's crazy saying it, but, I've got memories of Lisa Devana scoring crazy goals, Cheryl Salisbury leading as Matilda's captain. I was in and around the football scene, and as soon as I saw that first match, I knew I wanted to be a Matilda. I didn't care what it took. I didn't know how I was going to get there. All I knew is I trained harder than everyone else I knew. I was the first to show up, the last to leave, and I was going to do whatever it takes to be a Matilda. I think from then onwards, it was like in my blood. This is what I want to do, and I don't I didn't necessarily actually have a backup plan. I just threw everything into football.
Wow.
And I believed in it that much that I would get there. And then bit by bit, slowly, it actually worked out for me in the end.
Yeah, like what gave you, I guess, that belief? Was it just that you were so passionate you knew that?
Yeah, definitely. It's at that point I looked at my skill level and I was like, okay, they're worlds beyond me. Like I'm never going to be as skillful. But what I did have better than anyone else around me was I knew how to train. I knew how to develop. I not many people know this, but I get so many people ask me like, oh, how do you kick left foot? And I'm like, I used to at 6 a.m. get a private coach and do left-footed sessions only. My left foot was only for
Wow.
standing on, and now it scores most of my international goals.
That's
and
crazy.
You wouldn't even notice that I'm not left-footed now, but I did not have a left foot, and it's things like that where I just possess a different quality in my mindset of like, I'm not good at this, I'm going to get great at this, or I'm at least going to make it work. And they're the kinds of things that kind of helped me develop my game to the next level, because I wasn't born with that like footballing talent.
Yeah.
But I was born with that footballing mindset of like, I want to make something of this and I know I can be better.
Yeah, that's amazing that you were so determined to get that
Mm-hmm.
left foot, and now, like, see where you are now. I just want to fast forward to 2012 now.
Yep.
When you made your Tilly's debut, is there like a particular like moment that you remember on that day really vividly?
I shared that moment with Katrina Gorry, which was pretty special. We debuted together against Japan. What I remember about that day is not even touching the ball, because Japan was so good.
Wow.
Times have really changed. I've not only played in Japan in the J League, in the top league, I've played against Japan now several times, but from that debut, all I know is a long time coming. And what's different to now is I think we spent several years, Katrina and I and some other players, really building ourselves up to get that debut. Whereas like now I feel like it's happening a little bit more often. But I spent years on the sidelines with coaches like Alan Sajic and all those coaches who came before him. Tom Samani brought me in. But I worked really hard to get that debut. That didn't happen overnight. I went to several camps. I was on the sidelines for several games, and that opportunity finally happened. And I've been playing ever since, so I've done something right. But it was a scary moment to realise you're on the field with some of the best players in the world, and Japan was like unreal at that time.
Yeah.
Still very good, but they were in their prime. They were like America, the team to beat. So we had I think it was a sellout crowd. I couldn't hear anything. I've run on that pitch. It was a really intense game. I actually can't remember the result because I was so much younger then. But yeah, it was a
Wow.
pretty special moment.
No, that's amazing. And I guess like during that period, like you were playing, like I think we talked about it a bit before, where the Matildas weren't superstars when you kind of first found out about them. But you were playing when I think you were getting paid like $21,000 a year. Like it was very different to what it is now.
Yeah.
Like, and I guess people have like kind of spoken, and I think some of the Matildas girls have spoken about how people were telling them to be grateful that they could even play football. Like, is that almost what it kind of felt like? Or did you always know that you had to push for more?
I was always hoping football would go to where it is now, and it's going in amazing places since the World Cup. It's unbelievable. But to be honest, I think if you ask all of the Matildas now, will we keep playing even if there's no money in it? The answer is yes. We've loved football. We've had a tough time from the start. People say we should be grateful for everything that we've got, but we've also need to set the standard of like, no, we need to keep breaking these boundaries.
Yeah.
There needs to be no limits. If the men can do it, why can't we? And it's not about going against our male competitors. It's about joining them, being equals, pushing the boundaries, setting standards. So we need to keep fighting for more. But I mean, I played for literally nothing for almost 5, 6, 7 years of my career. I mean, I lost money playing football. The hours and hours of petrol and time that my parents committed to getting me to, all the trainings, all the games, everything, it's all for the love of this beautiful game, and I would do it all over again.
Yeah, because then the Matildas went on strike in 2019 when they got
Yes.
their first ever joint collective bargaining agreement with the Socceroos. Like, I guess after fighting for so long, after, like you said, like spending money to play football, like what did it mean?
Oh, I mean, it was like a breakthrough moment, right? It's thought, okay, we're actually getting somewhere with this. We've been fighting for years and years and years. And, people can say they do deserve it, they don't deserve it. I think the sport deserves it. Female athletes deserve it. We put in just as much amount of time, just as much effort, and we give just as much to this game. So it should be equal. So it was a big breakthrough in women's football that day. I'm even more... I don't want to use the word grateful, but I'm really pleased with where it's going today. And, what's exciting is I'm one of the older players, right? So I'm on my way out, but I'm still contributing because it's exciting for this next generation. They're not going to have to think about studying. They're not going to have 2 full-time jobs like I did. You know, some players have had it really, really tough in their football career, and they've had to earn a living on the sideline just so they could make ends meet. So yeah, I'm excited for this next generation and for the generations after, because I think it's not going to stop.
Yeah, you mentioned that like it's great that the players now don't have to have like 2 full-time jobs like you did, but like how did that kind of like affect you? Like did that affect you like when you were playing at the time?
Definitely. Not only did it really annoy all of my bosses, it made it difficult to get time off. It made it difficult that when I would go away for football and not get paid, I had to not get paid from work.
Yeah.
So between school and work and then studying, like it was just so difficult. And I know some players have had it a lot tougher than I have. So, you know, I'm not complaining by any means, but these days, like it's just not going to happen. Girls are going to be able to play football as their full-time job. Like how cool is that? Like we're sitting here today that female athletes, football players are going to have full-time salaries, that they don't have to have jobs. They don't have to worry about you know, just working during the week and then getting off the weekend so they can fly interstate to play A-League. Yeah. So cool.
And I think now, like, you also get to fly business class, which you didn't
Yes.
before. Like, how much of a difference does that make, like, not having a bad sleep?
I cannot explain to you the difference between flying economy with Matildas for all those years. Honestly, I'm, like, amazed the way we play and the games we won after flying overseas. We always had to fly the furthest. We'd have a day off, we'd train, and then we'd literally play 2 games and then come home and then play for our leagues. Like, it is crazy to think that we did all of that in economy.
Yeah,
it's hard enough doing it in business, but I tell you what, it's a luxury to do it in business. Not only from a safety and injury perspective, but just from how you're feeling when you get off the plane. Like, it is game changer. So it's the least that all professional athletes deserve, I think.
Yeah, it's great seeing what difference it actually makes, like how important
Such
it is.
a difference.
I did want to ask you a bit about the World Cup. Like now, just kind of, I guess, changing topics a bit.
Yeah.
Your career so far has obviously had like some really incredible moments, but I guess there's also been a lot of tough times, a bit like you mentioned earlier with injuries and being left out of squads. Like, how do you kind of react to those disappointments?
Yeah, I mean, the first time I got left out of something major was the 2016, the Brazil Olympics.
Okay.
I really felt for the first time in a long time that I was actually going to get selected. So I think that was my hardest loss prior to the World Cup. But what that did is it put a fire in my belly. I said, there's no way the next Olympics that I'm going to leave any sort of doubt in the coach's mind. Like, he or she's going to have no choice but to pick me. And that's exactly what happened to me. And I went to the Tokyo Olympics, which was amazing. And obviously the 2019 World Cup, was it 19 or 15?
I think 19.
19 in France. And, you know, one of the best experiences of my life, a World Cup and Olympics. Like, I'm pretty proud of that. However, there was a big bump in the road. So the World Cup, in the home World Cup that we just had, unfortunately, I think it was about 4 months before the start of that, and I was in quite good form, and I had a really bad slide tackle when I was playing for Aston Villa, just in training, and I got told it was just going to be an 8 to 10 week injury, maybe 12 at best. So I was going to be okay.
Yeah.
So Tony was always going to bring me in and give me an opportunity, and so I went to the pre-World Cup camp. Things didn't go very well. I couldn't run. I was tears in my eyes, just putting my football boots on, like I was in extreme pain. As much as I tried to push through it, it just wasn't ready, and time wasn't on my side. And if we fast forward a year and a half later, or almost 2 years now, to where we are now, I'm still having trouble with that ankle. I've been pretty lucky my whole entire life to escape tough injuries. I've had a couple of calf tears, but I've always just recovered from them. But for some reason, this ankle is keeping me out of something once again. And unfortunately I picked up a calf tear in the recent camp when we were in America, and timing is just not on my side. So it's another really tough one. I think the World Cup was definitely the toughest loss, but after the World Cup I knew for sure I wanted to be a part of this Olympic team. So it's been really challenging for me mentally, but I always know there's a silver lining somewhere. For some reason, I'm not meant to be going to this one. The unforeseen timing of this calf injury, it's not gotten me back in time, and, you know, finally getting the opportunity to sort this ankle out, because I'm 32, but I want to play for a really long time, and I know I'm still at that level. And I think that's the biggest thing as a player, to keep believing in yourself even when the chips are down, and also not to let go of hope. I know I'm good enough to be in the national team. I know I'm good enough to go to another World Cup or another Olympics. I am a little bit older. I'm never going to give up on that dream. I'm still going to keep having a crack. So the focus now for me is to get this ankle sorted, stay away from the calf tear, bad luck that I'm having, and just turn things around. I'm just excited to get back out there.
Yeah, you mentioned like there's probably going to be like a silver lining. Like, I guess, how did you like process like that, like missing out, I guess, on the World Cup? But like, how do you like find that silver lining now, I guess?
Yeah, well, lots of silver linings happened. I got to spend more time at home with my partner, my family. I got to say yes to an incredible opportunity that recently came up, which was the Amazing Race Celebrity Edition. So, you know, all of these things, they play its part. You don't see it at the time because when you feel like the world's against you and you're just in this negative path and you think, you know, I've missed the opportunity of a lifetime, if you can actually let yourself accept that and open up your eyes to what's out there, you end up, all these other opportunities end up unfolding and you're able to say yes to other things that you never would have said yes to. And one of those things was the Amazing Race. And any other world, if I was fit and healthy, I wouldn't have been here. I would have been overseas playing abroad, and I wouldn't have been able to do that opportunity. So all of these small things to help me with life after football and give me experiences that I'll never get back, and just accepting that like that's happened for a reason, but there's a door opening somewhere else, and you've got to take that. And if you're down in the dumps at that time when you feel like everything's against you, you don't see those opportunities and you don't say yes to them.
Yeah, and I guess with that, like another silver lining, you got to do a bit of commentary for Channel 7 during the World Cup. Like, what was it like seeing, I guess, just women's football exploding from that point of view?
As heartbreaking as it was not to be on the pitch, I probably had the best job ever. I got to support the Matildas from the sideline. I got to be on the on the panel of Channel 7 for the last and most important game. It was unbelievable. It was an experience that I'll never ever forget, and it also was a growing moment. I got to, just almost develop my CV for life after football.
Yeah.
I felt really almost too comfortable with the media side of things. It felt easy for me. It was a nice experience. It was definitely very different. But I loved supporting the girls from the sideline in that way. And not only did I get to be a fan, but I got to witness, and we don't often get to witness these things as players, being in the grandstand, going to the game, seeing the aftermath of Matildas winning at a home World Cup. It was special. And although I would have loved to be there, I got to really feel and see what the fans were feeling. So that was a pretty cool moment.
I want to go back to you. Like, you had an amazing season for Melbourne Victory just recently. You scored some incredible goals. I think I was there for one of them. And then you got picked for the Matilda squad to go and play in the US series, but, you know, you got injured during the camp, which you spoke about. Like, did that give you kind of just hope that you still have a lot more to offer, like you've spoken about, you can keep going for?
Definitely. You know what? During that Melbourne Victory season, it started off really tough. I didn't even know if I was going to play that season because my ankle was really bad. We somehow pushed through the ankle. Halfway through the season, I got my first calf tear again. Missed 9 weeks. That was really devastating. And to be honest, that was my third calf tear, right? So a lot of people in those moments, you crumble, you give up. Yeah. And I'm not going to lie, I felt really, really close to like, is this really it for me? But I'm like, no, I know myself. And what it did is that game that I was playing when I got that calf tear, I wasn't fit at that time because I was coming back from my ankle, but it's how I felt in the game. And even though I tore my calf that day and I cried and I was emotional, I got up the next day and he said, you know what? It's going to be 9 weeks of rehab, but I can't wait to get through that because I'm going to be back and I'm going to score and I'm going to try and get top goal scorer and I'm going to keep going. And, you know, I had to challenge Michelle Heyman for it. She had a lot more games than me. However, you know, she had a great season, but I pushed for it, and not feeling my fittest, not feeling my best, I was still able to play at that level. And I think what's exciting is I was nowhere near my peak fitness and I was nowhere near my level of ability. And I still managed to score 7, 8 or 9 goals, whatever it was, for victory. So what excites me is when I'm fit and healthy, I just know I'm going to be, you know, not the old player that I was, but I'm going to be at my best.
Yeah. I think you definitely really would have challenged Michelle though if you did get to play.
Yeah. I'll get you on the next one, Michelle. Don't worry.
I guess we'll see. But I guess like also like, is that what kind of like made you want to come back to the A League, just still showing what you can do? Or?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I've spent the better part of 10 years away from my home, my family, my partner, and it wasn't so much the time apart That's always tough. And coming home was a very, very big decision and a difficult one because I knew playing abroad was the best opportunity for me. But what really pushed it is not only the time away from my loved ones, but also this ankle injury. And the thing about overseas is when you go to a big club, even if they are a big club, you don't know what type of medical care that you're going to get. And I had a lot of trouble with my ankle, and I've still got it. And so I needed to be around the best physios. Melbourne Victory's been unbelievable. They were the first ones to really, take me in and get me through the season with this ankle. And so that's support, and people don't realise it, but it's invaluable. Your environment and where you play is invaluable. So although A-League right now is nowhere near considered the best league in the world, it was right for me at that point of time. And it was right for me getting back on the pitch and performing. And so, that was a really, really big decision to come back and a tough one. But I definitely made the right decision.
There's always a silver lining, I guess.
There's always a silver lining. That's right.
And I guess also, just what's it been like to, be able to come back and to be just, playing at your best, really well again now, during this, Matildas wave almost?
Yeah. So, it feels good. Unfortunately, I would have loved to continue the wave with the Matildas at the Olympics. That's been a really difficult one for me these last few weeks to overcome. But it's also exciting, I got called back into camp, even though I did tear my calf, on that third day. What I do know is I felt good. I do know I was in form, and I do know that I've still got the ability to play in that green and gold. So that's what excites me. That's what keeps the fire in my belly. And at the end of the day, I'm a born competitor. I love winning. And it's not just enough for me to play an A-League season and score a bunch of goals. I always want more. So I'm still going to fight to be back in that Matilda squad. And it's going to be difficult because what people don't realise is the longer you're out, the harder it is to get back in.
Yeah.
And I'm ready for that challenge. And what I can say is I can't wait to be fit and healthy because I feel like I'm going to be back on a level playing field and I'm going to take my best shot. And I just want that opportunity to be fit and healthy because if I know I'm there, I back my ability and I know I can be back there.
I mean, we're going to have the Asian Cup here in 2026.
That's right.
That's a big motivation for you?
That is a huge motivation. Actually, someone brought it up to me the other day. They're like, is that your next goal? And I was like, you know what? I actually forgot for a second that it was in Australia. And after missing that home World Cup at Australia, I thought this is my next bite at the cherry. I want to be there. Not just need to be there, not just want to be there. I'm so desperate. And it's so much in my vision that I'm going to, if all things go well and I'm healthy, I know I'm going to be there.
And if we can keep the momentum going, from the World Cup and everything, it's going to feel like that.
It's going to feel crazy. I mean, look what the girls have done. These last few home games, just on home soil against China, absolute sellouts. 60, 70, 80,000. We were happy back in the day to get 10, 15,000. When I say happy, we were ecstatic. It was a miracle. I remember one time we got 17,500. It was a record, and we couldn't keep the smiles off our face. Now people can't even get tickets.
It's amazing.
I mean, you can't be any more proud the way things are going.
Yeah, just kind of continuing on from what you were saying before. I think the first Matildas game that I went to was in Sydney 2019, and you scored the first goal of the match. And I just remember getting your autograph and all of the other girls, and it was just so easy too, I guess, because there were crowds of 3,000.
Yeah.
Now it's just I guess so hard.
Now it's impossible to get a signature. No, I guess. What the girls are great for is they still give as much time as they can. But you can imagine trying to spread a team around 3,000 of an audience is much easier than spreading around 80,000. So it's more difficult, but at the same time, it makes the game more desirable and it makes it more special when you do get that signature, I suppose. So I encourage people to keep coming to the games, to keep trying, and just not to fall out of love with the games because I guarantee the girls, they will come around. And there'll be opportunities, and the girls I promise you, they're trying to get to every single person at the end of the day, and they love the support. They're all so grateful of support, and I know there's a lot more people there, and it is tougher, but never stop trying.
And I guess when you were playing in front of crowds 3,000, 6,000, only 5 years ago, and that seemed like an incredible crowd, like you were saying, breaking a crowd of 17,000 people, that was incredible. Why do you think it has gotten so big so quickly, even just a bit before the World Cup?
Yeah, look, it's a really hard one to answer because a few years before this home World Cup, I could feel it building. I think when the World Cup got announced, you almost had, there was it was a weird feeling that took over. It was a gut intuition of nah, this is going to be the turning point for women's football. I really felt that. And what we witnessed at the World Cup, I think not only did every sports person fall in love with Australian football, women's football, but people just in Australia fell in love with women's football. I think for the longest time ever, we've been called the female Socceroos. A lot of time people didn't even know there was an Australian women's team. And now there's not one person that doesn't know who the Matildas are. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, the whole entire nation has fallen in love with the Matildas. So, you know, that World Cup was a turning point, and I only think it's going to grow from there.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy that people are calling you the female Socceroos, and now maybe there are people that know about the Matildas and don't know about like the Socceroos.
That's right.
So.
Yeah, tables have turned, and we don't want that. We want the game to keep growing, whether it's for men's or women's.
Just for Australia.
But yeah, that's right, just for Australia and Australian football, because obviously England is like almost like the home of football, right? So we want to keep bridging that gap, but we just want everyone to be in love with football. That's the goal.
And like, I guess just like one last thing I wanted to ask you, like, what do you hope the women's football, just at every level, like in Australia, looks from in another 5 years from here?
I know the participation numbers have gone up, and everyone wants to play, which is amazing. I hope we see the game doesn't decline. I'd really, really love to see the game grow in the A-League. I really would, because all of these girls started in the A-League, and we want to keep the Australian League strong. And if Australia loves the Matildas, I want them to fall in love with football as a whole. And it starts from A-League. So come and support the Matildas, but also come and support the A-League. And then, you know, from afar, support the girls at their clubs overseas as well. I'd love for the attendance rate to be higher. I'd love for young girls to be wearing club jerseys and not just Matildas jerseys. Like, that would be really cool if we could see that keep growing.
I think we're already starting to see a bit of that, but it would be amazing to, see it keep going.
Yeah.
But thanks so much, Emily, for joining me today. I've got like so much stuff I could talk to you all day. But
I
thank you so
know.
much.
Thank you so much. It's been cool.
For more from Herway, visit herwaysportsmedia.substack.com.